How's it going, guys? I'm Chris, and this is Regular Guy Training. So, you read the title. I'm going to get right into this. This is the APC. Now, a lot of you have noticed actually for a while me wearing this thing. Either I'm teaching class or I'm doing green suit stuff or whatever, right? So, for a long time, I was using a significantly older carrier, and without boring you with the details on that, as our techniques and skills evolve and that kind of stuff, the further to the right we move on the calendar, the more likely you're going to need to update a few things. This was that update for me. Now, what this thing absolutely does have for me, and I stripped this pretty much all the way down to its bones so that I could talk a little more easily about what configures where. But I need something simple that I can add or take things off of fairly easily. I need a bunch of Velcro up front, and we'll get back to why that is important later. I need solid adjustability in the straps themselves. We'll talk about that here in a second. And I'm a huge fan of elastic cummerbunds, so we're going to talk about that first. Now, as far as an elastic cummerbund is concerned, you'll notice that this is obviously adjusted for me. The cool thing about this is that once I set basically one side in, after I've sized it and all that stuff for me, I'll only go in and out on one side. Makes it a little bit easier to get into and out of. But the cool thing about that is once this is in place, once you set this where it needs to be, it's not just like more rigid systems out there where this is set for its adjustability and everything is rigid. What you can do, and this is what I personally do, is when I size this for me, I make sure that both sides of the cummerbund, while even, are a little bit shorter than what I would normally use if I was using a traditional cummerbund. So all that really means is that what's required to get this thing where it needs to be is a little bit of a pull, and then I just kind of drag this into place. Everything meets up in the middle, and then we make sure that everything goes nice and flat over the top. Two things. One, it's nice and tight when you're using an elastic cummerbund like that, and two, it's not too tight because of the fact that it's elastic. And the reason why that's real important, for those of you that are just naive about how absolutely insane the plate carrier market is, having elasticity in here really helps with just your ability to breathe. If I'm doing things that are not shooting related, like I'm just picking up a whole bunch of stuff and humping it someplace, throwing on a pack, just going about my day-to-day life, I like the fact that when I'm trying to breathe, okay, it's not too terribly much to the point where it's loose, but as I try to breathe, the carrier moves a little bit with me so that it doesn't feel like I'm wearing a stiff box around my body. And that's how a lot of carriers used to be in the past, right? So as I'm sitting here just trying to do stuff, this is tight enough to where if somebody tries to, snatch up the carrier, they're going to move me with it. But it's also not, just kind of cutting off my ability to breathe well, which is a whole new bag of just irritating to deal with. And I dealt with something like that for a really long time. So having the ability to have that elasticity in there is far more useful than it sounds. So that said, right, let's talk a little bit more about what's going on in here. Oh, and by the way, website is terrible at showing this. Like anyone that's got pictures of this on like a retail website and that kind of thing. So I'm gonna let you know. There's Velcro up here, sure, and that's where a bunch of stuff can go. But there's also a bunch of Velcro like underneath these pouches, and it extends all the way to the bottom, right? And the reason why that's important, at least to me anyway, is that if I'm going to attach like a placard that's got a billion pouches on it for magazines, compasses, smoke, radios, maps, that kind of thing. What's really important is not just the fact that, okay, I'm using, a quartet of Swift clips to get everything on board here, right? I also want the extra stuff underneath that placard to just kind of hold it all in place. Because if you're just using one or the other, you risk losing the placard entirely, or it's shifting around too much while it's on your body. And that really is the last thing that I need, is a few pounds of junk just moving about at will on my upper body. I would rather not have that happen, especially with the cacophony of garbage I got to throw on my body and move around with at the same time, right? So the fact that there is Velcro for this whole panel really does help out a lot with that. APC itself is a traditional MOLLE type system. You can actually see it in here, right? Now, there's other stuff that's out there that, you know, is real easy to attach stuff similar to MOLLE, and all that really is a cost-saving measure. It's not extra stuff that they have to sew on. It's, oh, here's a bunch of material. We're going to cut some junk in it so that we don't have to take the time to sew more looped stuff on there. Is there a problem with this method or the newer one? No, there really isn't. So, that said, in addition to this, right, I personally don't use these. If I'm gonna use something for like a mat pouch and that, I'm gonna throw it on a cummerbund, not a cummerbund, a placard or something like that, something dedicated to that. But there is the ability to open this up, use it as a pouch. I'm personally not a huge fan of that, but the option is there. You can also carry a couple of extra, you know, just whatever it is that you need up in this pouch up here, and there's one more sealed compartment underneath that. So there's a bunch of different options for what it is that you are going to do. Me personally, I don't even really throw anything super important up here, because anything that's external to my body, I'm going to make sure it's in the pouches that are on the cummerbund itself, which I'll talk about, or again, placard out front. Because I'm trying as best as I can to have stuff accessible, I'm trying to retain a bunch of modularity, and at the same time I am also trying to make sure that what it is that I'm doing or what it is I'm carrying avoids the cargo pockets as much as possible, because there's always too much stuff in the cargo pockets. So, but you know, in this particular sense, you guys have seen this before. I don't throw too much in here. I just basically throw a folding knife up in here, and the only reason why that's even there, honestly, is, you know, if I got to cut like 550 cord boxes, whatever, you know, like it's just a utility tool up there. Okay, it's nothing crazy. Now, let's talk about these pouches in the cummerbund a little bit too, because to me they're actually very, very useful, because you have a pair of pouches that you can use for a variety of different things. These will fit things like magazines. You see a tourniquet in this one, you know, multi-tools, just little things, and they're nice and tight to your body so that you don't have to worry about stuff falling out on you, which is pretty cool. On this one in particular, I also threw a Blue Force pouch out here. You know, again, magazines, multi-tools, just a giant list of things have been in these little pouches, and they're more useful than they look. Just the more stuff, the more crap you start carrying around, the easier it is to figure out that, yeah, I can throw a lot of stuff in here, right? So you get a pair of these on both sides, right? And that actually helps out significantly as far as just the stuff I got to carry, keeping things tight and light, balanced, all that. So let's talk about these. So as far as adjusting, you know, your shoulders, number one, I like just the fact that there is stock padding for these. Okay, it doesn't sound like it's that big of a deal until you wear the damn thing all day or all week or all month. You really start to really appreciate little tiny quality of life boosts. Even if they're minimal, I do like the fact that there's padding up in the shoulder area, because it just does help. So as far as adjusting this goes, all you really need to do for this is take that same padding. Once you got that same padding, all you're really going to do at that particular point is just take the padding and peel it back this way. So when we do that, it exposes a Velcro section in here. Now, kind of a double-edged sword, not really a con. You have to pull these like all the way back there to get that Velcro strap undone all the way and then adjusted. Is it a pain in the ass? Does it feel like you need 3 hands when you got 2 working on already? Yeah. But it works, and the fact that it's a pain in the ass to adjust means that it's not coming undone, which, totally down with that. Only thing that I will note, though, just something to keep an eye out for, because, you know, I've screwed it up, is these little guys right here, okay? These little plastic brackets. You do want to pay attention to what's going on with them, because what you don't want is to get everything all adjusted, or think that you're perfectly adjusted, and have these turned on you like that. So, and all that really creates is a bunch of binds. You'll start feeling them back here. It's a pain in the ass if you're putting up with that. So just make sure that they don't turn on you. And the greatest propensity for them to turn on you in that particular case anyhow is, during the adjustment portion. Once you actually throw the thing on your body and move around with it a lot, you don't have really any of those issues, because they'll stay right where they're at. So that really does help in my particular case. And it's something that I personally really like. Now, as far as loading plates in here, they are bottom loaded, which is good. I don't really like top loading plate carriers, because that reminds me of the old IBA, and the old IBA was a giant piece of shit. So let's look at the back panel here, because the front panel is pretty straightforward. Okay. Back panel here is important because it's how we put the Cummerbund on here, right? So we throw this guy in here, and all this really is a big, huge Velcro panel surface, which is slapped on that away, and then this big, huge, very aggressive Velcro paneling surface is over the top, wraps up underneath the plate that you just loaded into it. Real easy. As far as putting plates in the pouch itself, super duper simple, like pretty retard proof. Simple, in that all you're doing is insert the plate. There's a Velcro strap. That strap wraps around the plate. There you go. It's really easy. But once that's pretty safe and secure in its little place there, and once you fold it up underneath it, it's kind of a pain. It's kind of a pain to get it undone, which is great. I need this to be really aggressive, because I don't want my plates trying to fall out on me. So that's nice and aggressive. That works out real good. Here's something that not a lot of people are really going to talk about, and I do talk about this because this is very important to me personally. The stitching on this is fantastic, because it's your straight stitch, and then you see little zigzags in there. All it is a stitching reinforcement, so that the whole thing can handle being frayed, beat on, constantly sliding back and forth on stuff. For instance, some sort of pack is on my back a lot, and you can actually see where the frame of an Alice pack was digging into me a lot, right? But where it was rubbing the most, the absolute most, all it really did at that point is just fray the edges of that stitching, and the heart of what's keeping that together is strong. It's going to stay there, and it's not going to go anyplace, which is really important, because either you just train a ton, or you are the kind of idiot like me that has jumped into some sort of organization that makes you live in plate carriers for extended periods. So I would really like the stuff that I hang on my body to not suddenly get ripped off because the stitching is awful. And this is why you don't buy stuff like Condor, which typically has terrible stitching. So, and this is just little stuff that you pick up over time. So, we talked about the adjustability, we talked about the MOLLE itself, we talked about the Cummerbund, how it adjusts, how it's useful, and that kind of thing. One more thing that's actually pretty cool, and I like this mostly because A, this is padded a little bit, and 2, it breathes really good, and that's just your inside paneling here. So it's not like the old school IBAs or IOTVs or whatever, where there's like a Kevlar surface between you and the plate. This is just carrying plates. So yeah, that little mesh surface on the inside there, it helps pull a little bit of moisture away from you, and it helps your chest breathe a little, which is great, because when it's retarded degrees outside, the last thing that I really need is to just lose my ability to breathe. That in conjunction with the elastic Cummerbund, good adjustability, lots of customizability, and that kind of thing that goes into it, and I'm 110% okay with taking this pretty much anywhere. Now, I understand that there are more modern examples of this guy, and I understand that there is air quotes better stuff out there. But this is a really good. This is like a really, really good start. Like, it's a pretty good base for plate carriers, or if it's just like your dedicated thing. Like if you had it for a while, you throw in sets of plates into it, and this is like it. This is it for you. This is what's going to work. Honestly, I have no problems with it. Probably, I have zero really negative to say about it, because I got far more used to much more crappy stuff for a long time. So this to me is, this to me, the difference between the two really is like before I was driving a Pinto and now I'm driving a space shuttle. So, yeah. I've been using this for a little while, and either I'm in a way reduced configuration, or I throw a placard on here with tons of junk that I just need to run around with. Like if I have to hook contacts into my head, or if I got to, or again, smokes, freaking 8,000 chem lights. If I got to have maps, if I got to tote around a compass, whatever. Just tons of junk in here. That in conjunction with a belt and now I got magazines, handgun, dump pouch, medical stuff. I got water floating on my body. At some point, freaking, I have other stuff to pick up, throw on my back, and run around with. This helps out a lot with taking a lot of that crap off my back and putting it on my chest area, and then in conjunction with a belt, that helps out. It's pretty good stuff. So that's all I really have on this, guys. Hey, look, if you want to come out and train with us, you absolutely can. I'm setting up stuff in a lot of different places at the moment, actually. Talking to a lot of different people about going places. I'm going to Florida this weekend, actually, for mechanical and self-defense rifle. I'm also going to, Pennsylvania. That's for pistol stuff. List of other stuff that's coming up. Point is, though, is that I'm in talks with even more people about more stuff. We're going further to the right on the calendar. If you want to come out and train with us, you absolutely can. If you want to support us through Patreon, you can do that too. If you want to help us out, because especially with just some changes I got made to YouTube and stuff, we're like super duper turbo demonetized. So if you want to help us out, throw us a couple of nickels. That'd be great. It goes right toward doing a lot of this stuff. That's it. Honestly, it's greatly appreciated. You guys have been doing a lot of really, really good work. And if you want to get something out of it, $41 a month gets you as much training as you want to with us, so long as we have slots in classes, and it's not a vehicle class, because logistics kind of makes us charge people of bringing in and removing cars. I also do private classes too. My email is really easy to find as far as the business email is concerned. So if you want us to do private classes, we can talk about what to do as far as that's concerned, because I have my own requirements for it there. And also, we have a Facebook page. If you want to check that out, you can 110% do that. I'm done with the plugs. It's a good carrier. If you're on the fence, go get it. And remember, regular guy's firearm is the last defense against tyranny. Easy.